So I first want to say that what I intended to do with this video and what I ended up doing with this video are two very, very different things. I planned for this for the past 10 days, and then when I started making it, I went a whole different direction. So we'll start with where I was going to go, and then you'll understand why I made a switch. So the April 1st, 2026 edition is the Steve is Wrong vlog. So this vlog is mostly to start about Elon Musk. Tesla is valued more than pretty much all other Western car companies combined. So it is at one point, I have not checked today, don't know, don't care. At one point, it was worth more than all of the American companies, the German companies, the Japanese companies, the South Korean companies. The market cap of all of those companies combined was worth less than Tesla. I think now it's not quite, but anyway, unbelievable valuation. And it has that valuation because investors, for whatever reason, think Elon Musk is a god. Uh, where he arguably is kind of a god is when it comes to the accomplishments of SpaceX, which he deserves very little. I'm not going to go down that road right now. SpaceX was the first to land reusable rockets. Over 50% of the satellites that are circling above us right now come from SpaceX. It helped launch Starlink, which I'm going to talk about more later. Perhaps the greatest achievement of SpaceX by having these reusable rockets is that the cost per kilogram is $1,500 on SpaceX, where it's $9,200 for its nearest competitor. That's a phenomenal cost savings for getting stuff into space. Later this year, it's looking to have an initial public offering, and they're planning on evaluation. They're hoping for a valuation of $1.75 trillion dollars. The largest IPO in history was Saudi Aramco, which netted 1.7 trillion back in 2019. And for the record, Saudi Aramco to this day has a market cap of about 1.7 trillion. So, you didn't lose money if you invested in Saudi Aramco, but you haven't made a lot if you were in the IPO back in 2019. Musk owns 41% of SpaceX. So when it IPOs, it most likely will make him the world's first trillionaire. Now, Germany had an election of which Elon went over, gave a speech of which he gave the Nazi salute. He also then interviewed the leader of the AfD party, which is the far right party of Germany. And he joked after he gave the salute, he joked on X that the world did not see that coming. Oh God, don't go into comedy, Elon. Do not go into comedy. Um, where I came to deeply dislike Elon actually dates back to 2018. In 2018, a group of boys were trapped in a cave. If you think about it, you remember it. It was the international news story as all efforts were being given to try to rescue these boys from a cave, which, by the way, they all got out fine. Everything was great. But Elon, with his amazing ego, felt the need to weigh in on it and how he alone could rescue them, and anybody else who's trying to rescue them, well, he said of the coach who's doing everything he could to try to rescue his boys, he said, "You know what? Don't bother showing the video. We will make one of the mini sub pod going all the way to Cave 5. No problemo. Sorry, pedo guy. You really did ask for it." So he's calling this person he had never met a pedophile just because the guy didn't do what Elon asked of him. After the boys were rescued, without Elon's help, Elon apologized. In 2025, he got into a tiff with President Trump, and he said, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House, and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. This is actually correct. Without a doubt, it's true. Trump likes to brag about how much he won by, but he actually won by very little in the seven swing states there's a good argument that Elon was the tipping point of getting Trump elected because it was more than just the money he did. He also brought in the brosphere, the bro podcasters to get him on and so forth. And so I don't think anybody can make an argument that this is factually incorrect. So Trump does owe his presidency to Elon, which I know Trump hates. But money isn't everything. So after he did that salute, the AFD party flatlined in terms of support. Prior to the salute and prior to his interview with the AFD leader, the AFD party was surging in the polls. Elon did this, and then for the remainder of the time of the election, they didn't go up in the polls, and they ended up getting exactly the result they had before Elon came to Germany. So his influence ended up kind of backfiring, most likely. The AfD is not part of the ruling coalition in Germany. The way they were surging, all predictions were that they would be part of the ruling coalition. Somebody who does not want far right parties in power, woohoo! Thank you, Elon, for doing what you did because the AfD could be part of the ruling coalition if it wasn't for you. In Wisconsin, he dropped conservatively, they estimated to be $20 million, but most estimates actually have it closer to $30 million on one Supreme Court race. Just one. $30 million. I cannot begin to explain how insane that is that a state the size of Wisconsin having $30 million from one man trying to influence an election. But I give credit to Wisconsinites, which is not easy for me to do as an Iowan. We like to make fun of the cheeseheads. The Democrat in that race ended up winning 54 to 45. Wisconsinites did not appreciate somebody trying to come in and buy a Supreme Court seat away from them. Elon does have incredible influence and power, though, just by virtue of SpaceX. SpaceX, at the beginning of the Ukraine war, uh, Starlink was the way that Ukraine was able to communicate with their troops, so forth, and it gave incredible information and incredible advantage to Ukraine to repel the invasion from Russia. Elon insisted that the US government help pay for it, which the Biden administration did give money. So Elon was on the right side of history at that point. Unfortunately, Donald Trump doesn't have the same goodwill towards Ukraine, and he certainly has not liked Zelensky in the past. So, yeah, it's questionable where loyalties lie now. And just last week, if you're a longtime viewer of this vlog, you know that just last week, the FCC has restricted what routers can be sold in the United States. Moving forward, the only routers that can be sold in the US are routers that are made in America. And right now, there's only one company that makes routers in America, and that company is owned by Elon Musk. Hmm. Hmm. Now, shifting gears from a guy I have no respect for to a guy I have incredible respect for. Chet Culver became Secretary of State in 1999. His father, John Culver, was a hero of mine. Growing up, I I just thought the world of his dad, who was Iowa Senator from 1975 to 1981. He represented Iowa. And when Chet announced that he was running for Secretary of State, I first met him at the Iowa State Fair. He was manning the Democratic booth at the Iowa State Fair, and I talked to him then and wrote a check to his campaign. And then I went to his inauguration when he went to his swearing in as Secretary of State. And then because I was a photographer, I then followed him and Mary into his brand new office, and I took several pictures of him and Mary and blah 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 blah. And I kind of became the unofficial photographer for for him. And yeah, I have tremendous. There's nothing I will ever say negative about Chet or Mary. I just think they are just the most wonderful couple in the world, and they've raised two children that are now in their 20s and phenomenal in everything they do. Uh, all I all I will say is that in all the political people that I've met in my life, I don't think I've met anybody that matches Mary's wicked sense of humor. And I mean that as a compliment. She is she's amazing. Chet then went on to become governor, and I was very happy to go to his inauguration, inaugural ball for being governor. And he did an excellent job as governor. He got defeated in 2011 he got defeated in 2010, so he left office in 2011 during the midterm wipeout of 2010. No Democrat was going to get it. Iowa got just uh, in 2010. So, but he was again fantastic human being, great Secretary of State, great governor, total respect. April 1 of 1999, so going back to right after he had been elected Secretary of State, there was a huge snowstorm that hit Northwest Iowa. And I was working at the Sioux City Airport. I ended up pulling a 48-hour shift doing aviation weather because there was nobody able to come into work to relieve me. The whole city was shut down for more than a day. Nothing moved. So it took that long for people to dig out. Now, how to connect these two dots? How do you connect Elon Musk to Chet Culver to a snowstorm? I've had the great fortune to meet many different politicians over time. Some are phenomenal human beings. At a fundraiser for Chet Culver was Senator Christopher Dodd. And again, I'm there as a photographer, and this is at a anyhow, it's a high-end fundraiser. And after the fundraiser was over, Senator Dodd waited back and purposely went and talked to each one of the workers who had helped cater the event. And just, with nobody else seeing it, he just did it. And I just stuck back because I had nothing to do. I wasn't out trying to smooze with anybody. And I was like, that's just says something about his character. I've also been around some people that I'm not going to name names right now, but I've been around some people that I'm like, you are scum. I will name one name. The guy formerly known as Prince Andrew literally knew in the first 5 minutes I met him, this man is scum. So when it turned out he was scum, no surprise. April 1st, 1999, that huge snowstorm. I had a lot of dead time on my hands. Again, snowstorm, working the snowstorm, but in between weather observations going out and taking naps in between where I could take naps, I had a lot of dead time. And so I wrote a belated Christmas letter that I then sent to several hundred people. And it used a picture of me with a high school friend that she and I went to the inaugural ball for Chet Culver. And it said, announcing our engagement. So I made Christmas cards that said announcing our engagement. And I sent it with April 1st, 1999 as the header, assuming that everything else that I had in the letter was true, but the engagement was an April Fool's Day joke. And I thought of all the people I sent it to that they would all recognize that it was an April Fool's Day joke. I ended up receiving a lot of gifts. People sending cards, people sending, uh, you know, a guy from California sent me a $100 gift certificate. Congratulations, use this however you can for your wedding. And so I was like, what do you do in that case? It was a joke. It was a joke. None of the people who sent gifts wanted it back. I offered each one of them. It was a joke. I'm sorry, it was a joke. No, nobody wanted it back. The bottom line is that I love a good April Fool's Day joke. And so my initial Steve is wrong video was me planning to just go off on all these things that I'm wrong about, but I actually don't think I'm wrong because I'm arrogant. Um, yeah. The tagline I've been using is life is weird. It is very weird. And I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have known Chet and Mary Culver. And on that, I'm going to end this. I wish you all well. Talk to you tomorrow. And Cujo's been very patient, so I need to take him for a walk.